We're here. You found the right place.
You're clipping.
Just stick with us for a minute.
Your mic is hot. I sound like a normal person.
Testing.
You were on beat.
Okay. Well, welcome again to Trinity Radio, the after. That's not what I want.
Who are those people? Twitter.
Jonathan, we did it again. We started
Hey,
it
everybody,
again.
we're here.
It was going so well.
Welcome to the after show. We are doing this every week, and yeah, we were having a private conversation. No, we weren't. We forgot to unmute the mic.
Got to unmute the mic.
Yeah.
But glad you're back. All right, so
we can actually see the names now.
Well,
we're not
if they're
doing
on
the
YouTube,
Facebook. Yeah. Okay.
so-
Well, I'll monitor the.
you monitor things, okay?
What's funny is everyone's going to be on YouTube. It's not. We don't have a stream. We just have a link.
That's right. Well, okay. So, what are we saying? William Shatner went to space.
Yes, he did. And I think that's. I don't care what Prince William says. I think that's a fantastic thing. We are meant to be explorers. Yeah. We are meant to push the bounds of technology and explore God's great creation, even if godless people are out there doing it. I'm glad they are, because we can continue to see more and more of what's happening and what's going on in God's creation. And I think that it focuses global attention on something that's, we can all rally behind, except for Prince William. So if we're all rallying behind the idea that one day we are going to leave the confines of planet Earth and see what else is out there, I think that's a common goal that humanity can rally around, and not just, this faction versus that faction. It just takes us away from all of the tribalism that you find in the world when everyone's looking up for once.
Well, okay, but there's a couple of things to comment about with this. So obviously the most obvious suggestion, and this is my wife's suggestion too, is hold up. We're paying all this money, we as humanity, and it's all coming through a particular, organization run by a billionaire, but we're paying all this money.
Yeah, we ain't paying nothing.
To put somebody into space for a few minutes and bring them back down, when you could have taken that same money and done so much good in the world for people that are literally dying for lack of an injection. Not talking about the COVID, but like with the AIDS crisis in Africa, money that would cost, an injection that would cost a dime, and yet we're sending Shatner and a 91-year-old man or whatever into space instead of doing that. Stuff like that. Yeah. Or just if we're talking about an American, Jeff Bezos is an American, working on things here, people that are impoverished here, all kinds of things, or elsewhere in the world. What is the possible case? That's the first thing. When you have all these, and I agree with you that there is a human drive. It's a part of what it means to be human, to explore, to search out new worlds and new civilizations. That's a part of the human desire and experience. I get that. That's why we are currently in a building in America, right? But what the heck, man? Why do you want people to die of starvation and stuff?
That assumes that it's a zero-sum game. That if you pay money to go to space, then that's money you're not paying, or other people are not giving to starving children.
Yes.
That's false. You can do both. It's not a zero-sum game. And if they weren't doing, nobody complains when they're investing in infrastructure to build a new Amazon plant, unless you're AOC in New York and you don't want jobs for your constituents. Everyone else is like, yes, bring it here. Why build any buildings? Okay, So I want to say, so you have a pair of shoes that cost you $50 when there's shoes at Walmart, and you could have bought the $10 shoes at Walmart and sent the $40 difference to feed a starving kid in Africa or wherever.
Yes, or
why is that always in Latin America or in Venezuela? Lord knows they're a socialist country and they're running out of food. But you didn't do that. With your $40.
But you're going to judge Bezos for sending Shatner into
Does
space.
Simply having more remove your guilt by your own standard because he has more than you do? No, those are your standards, and I'm going to judge you by your standards. And he could do without space to feed 10 people, 10,000, 10 million people. You could do without fancy shoes and go feed 5 people, but you didn't do it.
Or better yet, if we're really talking about that you could pay for the medications needed for these people that are struggling with AIDS in some African countries and things like that, you could at any moment, if you're the critic, function as a Jeff Bezos, obviously not to the same extent, but it will feel to the people you're benefiting as though it's to the same extent.
Right, and if you can just feed one,
is
it not worth it? Is it not? Yeah. It's not worth it to you. You don't even want to feed one, but you're expecting him to feed all those, but you won't even feed one.
But now there's another side to that.
How awful are you? You won't even feed one
to support your.
But if wearing a mask will save just one person, and if wearing $10 kicks, according to Mr. Green, and for your $40 will feed a family of 5 for a week, you don't care. So how awful are you? See, it's so easy to play that game.
Mr. Timotheus Ward says, I waste money on takeout and donate to Trinity Radio. Best of both worlds. To add to
you are donating to starving kids.
To add to what you're saying, Saint Bono, who discovered, who has discovered the rock music of U2,
yes,
and has been very much involved, even got George W. Bush to cancel lots of debt that African countries owed us and things like that. He had the one campaign, and then he had Product Red that he developed along with Gap, so that when you buy products, you're indirectly supporting, the crisis and all of that, because he realized people were going to be too stingy to just give, so he had to find a way to get it from them one way or the other, and they could feel trendy about it. But the point is, people will say, well, hold on, Bono is worth something like $800 million. Couldn't he just give instead of something like that? Well, there is perhaps. Of course he does give, but with any particularly extremely wealthy person, the fact is the massive wealth allows you to actually give more.
Yeah.
And maintaining large wealth actually allows these organizations and these individuals to give more from the interest and have continual large amounts of money going out. There is something to be said for that. I'm not telling you what you should think about this because we're too much into economics and government and politics and things like that I am not the person you should listen to about those things, except don't kill babies. But I'm just saying that to support your position, it could be that someone like Jeff Bezos is actually able to do more in the long run because of things like this that bring his company more attention and grow his pocketbook.
Yeah, what you just said is exactly what John Wesley said: earn more, save more, give more. Mm-hmm. John Wesley said that.
Well, he got it from me.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
He watches Trinity Radio. Did you know? Yeah. But here's another issue for you. Why? Do you happen to know why it is that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are trying to do these sorts of things, going into space, aside from clicks and views and
because
money?
They want to make humanity better by eventually being able to move jobs and move, find more resources and energies out in the cosmos and bring it back to make the planet a better place for everyone.
Yes, and at least in the case of one of them, and I think it's Bezos, the desire is ultimately to move human beings off world in a Wall-E-esque sort of situation where, well, actually, what the images they've come up with, and yes, they have images, concept art, what it looks more like, did you ever see that movie with Matt Damon where he wears this?
Elysium.
Yeah, that environment there is what it looks like. And they want to do that. They want to eventually get there. And they want to, do resources, things like that. Here's a question for us as Christians, a theological question. What about that eschatologically? I know they're not saying to abandon Earth, but they are saying to do this primarily because we're going to use up Earth and the Earth might be destroyed. So eschatologically, and in terms of trusting God and what he says about Earth, how's that float?
See, I don't know about how all that goes. But yes, I mean, there is a non-Christian eschatology that everyone has going on. I mean, I always say that Nietzsche himself, with the eternal return, was giving not that he believed that it was a real thing, but they have theology in a sense, and
metaphysics.
Theology, because in my history of philosophy class, I go through all the different who's the Schopenhauer is the soteriologist, like Leighton Flowers of the atheism, and Nietzsche is the eschatology guy, right? That's his theological position in that he's their eschatology theologian. But so they have this. I don't think it'll ever come to that. I mean, I think I don't know when Jesus will return, but I think that our sin can mar the planet. I don't think it could ever destroy it. And there will be people.
That's a position you hold theologically.
Theologically, they could never destroy it. It will be renewed by Jesus and Jesus alone, and it needs to be renewed. Even ecologically, it needs to be renewed. But only Jesus can do that. And the Bible says that whenever Jesus returns, there will be people to greet him. So,
yeah,
I don't buy into this idea of their doomsday apocalypse. But I do believe the Bible's apocalypse. So that's where I'm at on that. But going back to the other thing about is it moral, the idea that if they spend money on this, it's money not being spent, that is two things about that. One, just giving more and more charity actually doesn't solve any problems. Those are structural issues that you have to change fundamentally to make different world economies more self-sustaining than they are. And you can never make certain nations that have in Africa that have such high tax rates that all of our charity actually hurts because it doesn't motivate anyone to commerce. Okay, so high taxes, it's structural issues that all the charity in the world will never make a difference beyond giving them the food for the day, and that's it. But the other thing is, you notice that it's the Judas argument again. Now, people in churches make the Judas argument all the time. Why are we spending money on new, nicer carpet? Why are we getting a more expensive pulpit? Why are we putting new light fixtures and all that? That money should go to the poor. Same with the woman who wanted to honor Jesus with an expensive bottle of oil, and Judas threw the fit that, no, we shouldn't waste that. That could be sold for money that we could give to the poor. Now, that's not saying that Judas is wrong, but if it's you and Judas are making the argument, maybe that should give you pause.
Yeah.
Because what did Judas want to do? He was stealing the money, right? Mm-hmm. So you think that if they didn't spend that money on something to better humanity, that they would do something good, that equally, comparably good elsewhere with that money? No, you have no. That's magic knowledge. God has middle knowledge. You don't. You have no idea whether or not he would actually put that money towards something. Why does he do it? Because it's something he's passionate about. So I'm not a fan when Christians do it. I'm not a fan when non-Christians do it. Don't make flippant comments, one, that when you won't even buy $10 sneakers, not made from child slavery, to send the difference in what you would have spent on Nikes to feed somebody. Don't be a hypocrite. Lives up to your own standards.
In a sense, Bezos...
Number two, don't be ignorant of social structures that make charity sometimes worse and not better. Yeah. And three, don't be running around making Judas arguments.
Yeah, that's great. If that was more understood, like if people knew what you're talking about with that more obviously, that'd make a great T-shirt. Yeah. Don't be like Judas.
Right.
What would Judas not do?
Right.
But anyway, we have a couple of questions here. But basically, what you're saying is, if you feel that way, that like Prince William did, you should see Bezos as emblematic of your own problem. He's like the archetype of anyone who could give money but doesn't for whatever reason. All right, a couple of statements here. Mr. Green says, isn't there a passage in Revelation that says God will destroy those who destroy the earth? I don't know exactly what passage you're referring to.
Yeah, nothing really comes to mind.
But I'll tell you what.
I don't study Revelation.
What you were just saying a moment ago.
Could be a passage.
Well, thank goodness it was only the Patreon show where people don't know that we didn't know the answer to that question, right?
No, I don't. If I don't know, I don't. I'm not a Johannine scholar, so I don't have the Book of Revelation memorized, and I don't look into like the theology of ecology much. And if there was such a verse, it would be a common proof text in that material, so that I would know it.
Mm-hmm. Some of our supporters may be too young, or maybe they just weren't involved in these worldview discussions back when the Four Horsemen were really going and Hitchens was still alive. But that's what I never understood about Hitchens' thing. He'd go on about, oh, yeah, okay, this is designed. This universe is designed. Yeah, some design. We got, and he names off all these problems, things that seem like examples of bad design in the universe and all that. Yeah. And he always ends by saying, and then the earth is going to be destroyed in a massive heat death.
Okay, now we're in the second.
But what I'm saying about that is Hitchens, that most of the time you were debating Christian apologists in front of Christian audiences. And that statement has absolutely no purchase if you believe Christian eschatology, any Christian eschatology, because this earth will be renewed, right? Yeah. I just never got that. I never got that, why he thought that was like except he just, he could throw it out there, but I guess maybe trusting the ignorance of your audience is partly what was going on there. And then Jim Amberger asks a super interesting question. Are there any strange borderline conspiracy theories you guys give any credence to? I seem to have a lot of friends talking about comets passing by soon, and these are dry runs to escape. Now, Pritchett, before you answer, that is actually the stated sentiment of, I forget whether it was Musk or Bezos or both, that ultimately could be the reality.
Do we need Bruce Willis to go up there with Ben Affleck and drill?
Yeah, we got to blow up an asteroid. Yeah. Not to say that the stated goal is necessarily to do with asteroids, but with the destruction of the Earth eventually. But if they are going to save people with those little things they got that they're flying up there with and coming back, that are super awesome, but you can basically hold about 5 Shatners as the occupancy. Yeah. So,
there's a ride at Holiday World that shoots you up and comes straight back down. So, that's just that on a more massive scale. That's a thrill ride. What Shatner did. That's not like, they're in space for what, 2 out of the 11 minutes total from up and down from the time you take.
I don't know. Yeah. But that actually brings me to the next thing, which no, we didn't answer his question. So, conspiracy theories that I think have some credibility. Sure, one, and maybe this is just bias, but hey, we're going to the conspiracy theory route. I don't even think it's that much. I don't even think it should warrant the negative assertion of conspiracy theory. Of course, I guess that's what anyone would say about the conspiracy theory to which they hold.
Right.
But I think maybe the suppression of certain ideas in academia, such as intelligent design advocates and things like that. I think there's, the Expelled movie basically ran that out. I think that's a real conspiracy.
Yeah, like an intentional rooting out of ideas.
Or even just a naturally snowballing thing that happens where people begin to deride that perspective over time. It gets derided in lectures, and now it's not acceptable.
Yeah. I think conspiracy theories are interesting. I just don't know about subscribing to them or thinking they're credible. I do think they're fascinating, and some of the conspiracy theories that I remember being interested in was like the 9/11 inside job thing. They don't have a horrible case. I just don't believe it. But my goodness, they have a pretty good case.
For what?
For the 9/11 conspiracy.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you.
I mean, I'm not saying I give it credence, but what I'm saying is it's a compelling argument. It made me stop and go, huh? How about that?
Yeah.
And
please, no one clip anything out of this, please.
No, I
because it'll be out of context.
Is it a good argument that they made? Yeah, I thought it was a sound argument that they made for that. And in fact, there's a YouTube video.
Well, let's hear it.
Well, I don't remember now.
I can tell you one thing that I thought was interesting about that particular conspiracy was they rolled out that video that allegedly this video is a BBC report about there was another building that ended up falling right in New York.
Yeah.
Besides the two towers, there was like another one that was a substantial building, but obviously not like a skyscraper that fell. And it was like she was reporting on it, and behind her the building was still in the picture, and then she's like, what? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. And then the building falls. And it's like as if she knew about it before it happened.
Yeah.
Now, I can't remember what it was, but I Googled around and found, a lot of reputable sources explaining how that came to be that way. And it satisfied my concerns about it. But that's an example of something that's like, whoa, hold on.
Yeah, and if you're not brevy on this, there's a good video of like 9/11 conspiracy theory in 5 minutes or something. There's a video on YouTube that will give you the summary of their case, and I'm just like, yeah, that's a very interesting and compelling. It's credible? No, probably not, but it's interesting.
Jim says, like CERN superconductor, just check out their logo. That was a strange one I heard lately. Well, I'm looking at their logo, and I'm wondering, maybe I'm just not perceptive enough to pick it up, what exactly it is that you're pointing out. I'll throw one up here. We never do shows like this, so why not? Well, I can't. But anyway, I don't know what that one is. But what is there now? The QAnon stuff. I don't. Obviously, let's just go on record that we don't buy into that stuff. Let's see. So let's throw up and see if this image, Pritchett, makes you.
I don't
conspiratorial.
I don't know enough about those. Like I've seen like NASA's emblem is like this. What was it like? Maybe like the serpent or something. The swoosh is a serpent.
Oh, is this supposed to be like a serpent type thing?
No, but I'm saying I know like people say certain things about the NASA logo.
Oh, he says people say it looks like 3 6s. 1.
Oh.
2, 3, 4. I see 4 6s, but the top circle has to serve as 3 of the 6. Yeah, I see 4.
Well, there's 4
6s.
Tails there, so
I see 4 6 tails.
Yeah.
I don't buy it, and also that's just a diagram of what CERN looks like. Yeah. That's what they pass particles down one of these things and spin them and collide them with each other. That's why I had a PlayStation 3 for a little bit, and my screen name was Hadron the Collider. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Hadron the Collider.
Wow, nerd.
Okay. Yeah. So, oh man. Shatner, here's what Shatner said, Pritchett, since you weren't there. He said something like, and it was as if he didn't know the term atmosphere, but I think he was just being eloquent. He was like, when you get up there, it's like you realize that the Earth has a 50-mile skin around it.
Yeah.
And that skin is blue. And you fire yourself through it at 2,500 miles per hour. And he said, suddenly you go from, in a matter of seconds, from a blue, sunny world to darkness. And he said it was so dark. And he described it as a metaphorical dark and an actual really, really dark.
Oh, that's where he's going on about life and death. Yeah,
and he points to space, and he says, I thought to myself, what is really interesting, what is really important ultimately is not what's out there in the darkness. It's what's down beneath me on that blue marble.
Yeah.
But, and that's why I said that even though they showed pictures of him hugging Bezos and crying and being so appreciative and saying how awesome and amazing it was and all that, in the publicity about it, he kind of ended up saying, it's not important. What's here is important.
Yeah.
But of course, that kind of goes along with Bezos' thing about, we're going to try to help here as long as we can,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Yeah. So I've said kind of all I really want to say about that. Pritchett, what about you?
Yeah, I've made all the points I want, and then we're...
Again, great dramatization, Braxton. You're the only one in the world who gives me a hard time
You
about
didn't pause enough
voice.
between words.
Wait, let's see you do better.
I can't... I don't try to do things beyond my ability.
That's called lacking courage.
No, it's called knowing thyself. Knowing thy it's a Socratic dictum. I know my limitation. A man has got to know... I'm Eastwood. A man has got to know his limitations.
Yeah, see, William Shatner makes spoken word albums, and I think he's got a Grammy or two out of that. But, all right, well, hey, a little bit of theology mixed into that whole thing. But honestly, folks, it is interesting, and it's something that we should think about, that we have several billionaires now who alone, all by themselves as one individual, any one of them has more than most nations in the world in terms of money.
Sure.
And think about what they could impact with that if they so choose. They become little emperors in our world. Actually, big emperors, bigger than a lot of the emperors were emperors. So the thinking.
But they're benevolent in a sense, because as awful as I think Bezos' politics are, for example, I like Elon Musk because he's more of a centrist, sane person. They're doing way more for...
Did you say Elon Musk was the more centrist?
Yeah, sane person. Yeah.
I agree, but he's also the one who believes we're living in a simulation, and the chances that we are not is 1 in a billion.
Yeah, but, he's a centrist.
But he's politically sane.
He's politically sane. But still, all of these space people are doing way better than Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg. Those people are those aren't emperors. Those are little tyrants.
Unfortunately, though, they have created, particularly Facebook, have created platforms that are now a part of our, in a weird way, like our infrastructure. Like it's like if you shut off Facebook, do you know how many small businesses you just destroyed? Do you know how many things you ruined?
Yeah, but Facebook also shuts down parts of Facebook and destroys lives. I mean,
that's
Facebook.
I'm not the Facebook apologist.
Yeah, Dorsey and Zuckerberg are evil. They're Ming the Merciless from Flash Gordon. I mean, they're just evil emperors, right? I don't get that from Bezos. I mean, I like Amazon. I'm an Amazon Prime person. I didn't cancel my Prime.
You missed a great opportunity, by the way.
What?
When you were talking about the tennis shoes and stuff, everyone listening to this has probably bought something from Amazon. If you're a person who does not approve of what Bezos is doing with his money, then perhaps don't ever buy anything ever from Amazon or a similar company again.
Right.
And give all that money to charity, or Trinity Radio is fine too.
Yeah.
Starving
kids like ours, right?
Yeah. Our
So I mean, it's just when it comes to like these billionaires, there are good billionaires and there are bad billionaires, and insofar as what they're trying to do, I mean, Elon Musk, he's trying to make ridiculously overpriced cars now, but he is still trying to make these cars that will be better for the environment or whatever, and they may not be that efficient, and you have to charge them whatever the problems you have with that. He's at least trying to do something good, and they're trying to give humanity something to hope for. Whereas Jack Dorsey and Mark Zuckerberg are trying to get everyone to think the exact same way, or to crush you. And I think space stuff, soul inspiring. Social media tyrants is soul crushing, because I mean, they're just like, what is. Do they not realize like free speech is should matter, and
Right.
that you shouldn't control, and that like nobody believes your fact checkers anymore because your fact checkers are horrible people who will look at the claim that they're examining and they will twist it to something they never said and say, see, that's false.
Right.
I mean, they straw man. So I know something's probably more true here's something for all the people to go crazy about me. I'm more inclined to believe the claim than I am to believe the fact checkers now. No matter how ridiculous it is, even if it's a conspiracy theory claim.
Well, or at least not completely trust the fact check.
Yeah, I mean, the fact checkers to me, that is a knock against your credibility. So that's not trying to add credibility. I find.
But then there's Bill Gates over here.
Oh, he's evil.
Bill and Melinda Gates. Well, but hold on, because Bill and Melinda Gates, I don't know who this other guy is, were all Person of the Year one year, and why? There's Africa, obviously, and it's because Bill Gates himself and Melinda have done a lot to provide.
They're the worst kind of philanthropists, though.
How's that?
They're the ones who buy, through their philanthropy, good press so they can run around saying, yeah, most of the world's population needs to die. There's too many humans.
Well, okay.
So
It's not there's not truth there. It's that is in part of a conspiracy against Bill Gates.
I'm not saying that he rigged the vaccine to office in 20 years. What I'm saying is he thinks that there's these overpopulation people.
No, I know. But people have taken a couple of particular speeches that he's given, and used those, and taken certain statements that he made out of context, and nobody's ever going to go watch the actual video except people like me, and then had it sound like he was saying basically we need to go over there and do.
No, I'm not saying he's trying to sinisterly kill anybody. But here's my theological objection to population control. Besides the fact that, and I'm not just talking about abortion. God created this world in Genesis 1 under the assumption that we would be fruitful and multiply and that it could sustain a deathless world. Okay? Whether you put that 10 billion, or not 10 billion, 4.7, so what is that, 250, when did humanity, if you're a old earth creationist. So
if you're an old earth creationist of what sort? If you're an old earth creationist of one sort, like most of the intelligent design guys,
so the earth
you put humanity 6,000 to 10,000 years ago.
Right.
But if you're a progressive creationist, theistic evolutionist,
250,000,
I think it's something like 250,000,
right? So the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, even as an old Earth creationist, right? The cosmos is 13.8 billion years old. All of this was set up to where 250,000 years ago, humanity comes onto the scene. And wherever you put the historical Adam in that or whenever after, the command was to be fruitful and multiply. And so God built this world and the entire cosmos that it has to be the way it is with the cosmological constants and as old as it is if you take the old Earth view, whatever, to sustain this Earth that should be able to have a deathless population that grows exponentially for the past however. It's estimated that there's like 8 billion people, 7 point some odd billion people on the planet, right? But it's estimated that over 101 billion people have lived and died since human beings, Homo sapiens, started coming. Okay,
and I don't know the extent to which this is true, but my understanding is that you could fit the entirety of that almost 8 billion people if they were shoulder to shoulder in Rhode Island. Now I don't know if that's true or not. Have you heard that?
No.
Okay.
But I'm saying that everyone who has ever lived. So if at 7 billion. But God created a world that, in theory, unless God, and this is where I get on to Christians who say, yeah, but God foreknew the fall and didn't have to create anything good because he knew it was going to go. No, God has either built a world where his commandment had purchase, even knowing it wouldn't hold, or he didn't, and he gave a commandment that he knew was bogus.
Yeah.
Right? I'm saying this, but I mean, it's not like I need to worry about this because they're going to fall into sin, and so I didn't have to build a world. So if I take the Bible seriously, regardless of my views of Genesis, however, old Earth, young Earth, whatever, everyone should be able to say that God created a cosmos that could sustain a deathless humanity that could grow exponentially. If you be fruitful and multiply, you have two. And then one to.
But it's easier than that, Pritchett, because
multiply means every husband and wife has 3 kids.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Let me tell you why that doesn't even matter. I mean, that's a nice point to as part of this, but the fact is, we have created a space program in a fallen world.
Yeah.
If we had not had a fallen world,
We'd be in space by
We
now.
maybe inhabited multiple other planets by now.
Right.
So there isn't a problem.
Yeah, but even assuming, but anytime anyone favors any kind of population control whatsoever,
Yeah, that's
that's an
dangerous.
anti-Christian,
That's anti-Christian,
worldview.
yes.
No matter
Now-
what your interpretation
Now
of
listen,
Genesis is.
Jim Amberg says, so where are you guys at on the Shroud of Turin while we're talking about things that are considered outlandish? I don't consider it outlandish, and I don't know that it's true. I hold it weekly, but my current thoughts are after we did 2 episodes on it. You can go back, if you search Trinity Radio and Shroud of Turin, we did 2, maybe 3, I think it was just 2 episodes
barn
on it
burner episodes.
about
They
6
were
months
great.
ago.
Yeah. That was longer
And
than
I
that.
really enjoyed those episodes and the content of that book and some other research I did about it afterwards. And I still have a book from the Nashville Public Library that has been checked out for about 15 years now. But
And you never paid the
I've
fee
I've been
either.
studying that for a long time, and not to a great extent, but just casually studying it. And I'm weakly convinced. What about you, Pritchett? Shroud?
I like that way of saying weekly convinced.
Yeah. So there's an outlandish thing that we believe in if it's outlandish.
So no, I never said I think Bill Gates wants to kill people and that he injected us all with weird things, or that there's a code in Microsoft Windows XP that we all looked at and it's gonna trigger some chemicals in our brain and we all fizzle out. But what I am saying
I do
is
not have that much
the
confidence in
worldview.
Windows XP.
The worldview, yeah, right? You get the blue screen of death, but that could be a literal thing. But I do not approve of people with the kind of worldview that thinks that population control is in any sense necessary and that we need to reduce the population because of the effect we're having on God's world that was originally. Now, not that sin can't affect the ecology, because I've made that argument on Trinity Radio that yes, and therefore when you argue against natural evil or non-human evil, I say, yeah, we believe that sin can affect the ecology. And if you believe in global warming, then you can't object to the fact that we believe that human free will decisions can affect the ecology, right? So I'm happy to make that argument too. I don't.
That's the atheist fall.
Right.
Because you're with your theological structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of this
climate change.
Humans are going to destroy God's creation. Not saying that climate change, I'm not a denier. I'm just it's not that bad yet. And I'm an anti-climate change alarmist. I'm anti-alarmism, right?
Well.
But so that's where I'm at on that whole issue. But I still, that humanity can destroy God's creation in total? No. Do we need to reduce the population? No.
Because that really is like playing God, you know? Slam RN says that there is just something that is not intuitive about getting in here. And she means to this live stream that's unlisted that is on the Patreon site and now in the Facebook group. But I totally get it. But you see, Slam RN, Chris Tate and I are thinking through a project we might work on together about an apologetic related to the idea that God wants us to search things out and work on it on our own and come to the conclusion using the rationality that he gives us. And so we're just trying to emulate that here by encouraging our listeners to really work at finding where we're live streaming, because God gave us all these rational capabilities.
Yes.
So with that, I don't really have anything else to say. Thank you all for showing up. I hope this is a blessing to anyone watching after the fact. And
you get the cool stuff from us.
This is cool stuff. We didn't talk publicly about Shatner in space, and we kind of did here for a minute.
Or our thoughts on Bill Gates, Jack Dorsey, and their evil conniving schemes to destroy all of humanity.
Yeah, that's right. And maybe a manipulation of St. Bono.
Yes.
Mr. Green gets the last comment of the day. Cool, blue screen of death, literally. That's what Pritchett says. That again, a thing that would belong on a T-shirt if anyone knew the context. Mm-hmm. This has been an absolute blast. We love all of you.
This was more fun than the main show.
This sometimes can be more fun than the main show. And listen, thank you so much for being our patrons. We don't deserve you, and we so appreciate it.
Very much so.
And really, there have been some patrons who have started, dropped off. That happens on any channel, so it's a little lower than it was. You deserve to know about that. And so we're working to get it back where it was, because there are some things going forward that we want to do that require funding. But can you hear me? You are making this possible, so thank you all.
Yeah. I literally wouldn't do it without the patrons. Like literally, I wouldn't do this without the patrons.
I would. So, but hey, you don't want to lose Pritchett. So Pritchett, Will they see us next time?
They will on Trinity Radio.